Aaron, when did you fall in love with soccer?
Fall in love with it. Not the same time I started it.
So let's go back then. How did you get into it?
So I started coaching soccer because of my kids, and they, like all parents, right, trying to find things for our kids to do and be involved in. So both my girls started playing U6 soccer at our local club. And initially, I didn't participate as a coach. I sat on the sidelines and cheered them on, like most parents. And then the second year of U6, my middle daughter, they had a team, but they didn't have a coach. So I volunteered.
Okay. And I know that was your first foray into soccer coaching, but it certainly wasn't your first one into sport. We know each other very well, but can you just kind of shed some light on your background within basketball?
Sure. Yeah. So I didn't play soccer. Well, I guess I'd hedge that a little bit. I played like U8 soccer way back in the day before soccer. This state and country was significantly different. And my high school did not offer soccer as a varsity sport when I was growing up. So I played basketball. I played varsity basketball at my high school level. And then I also played at Madonna University for 4 years. So I ate, slept, lived, and breathed basketball for basically my entire adolescence and young adulthood.
Yeah, yeah, and I know you had a tremendous career at Madonna, and you're still very well regarded as one of the top players of that program. How did you develop as a basketball player? Was there a coach that was special in your upbringing? Was it largely self-driven? What was that like?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I think anybody that has played sports long term has some story of a coach that really connected with them and drew a lot more out of them than they thought they were capable of. And I don't think I'm any different. I played for a guy in high school whose name was Bob Blosser, and he just happenstance. He was my freshman basketball coach, and then he was my JV basketball coach. And then I played 1 year of varsity for a different coach, and then he became the varsity coach. So I spent 3 of my 4 years of high school basketball playing for the same guy, and he taught me, not just about basketball, right, but about what it means to be a good person and the work ethic part of it, and responsibility, and everything else that comes along with playing in sports.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I'm sure a lot of those lessons carried through to when ultimately you became a soccer coach, different sport, but from a philosophical perspective, a lot of similarities. What impact did that maybe have on the way that you started to look at coaching soccer as a sport?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, when you are an athlete, and that athletic career ends, for most of us, it's in high school. For a select few of us, it's in college, and then for a very select elite few of us, it's in some professional level. But ultimately, father time wins, and you can't play the sport anymore. But I think, as an athlete, are always drawn to sports for all the other reasons that you got involved in athletics, right? The camaraderie, teammates, helping other people grow. And I think that's probably the direct answer to your question is, when you start talking about how can I still be involved in athletics in some way, when you can't play anymore, the answer is help others be successful people, both on and off whatever competitive field they're in.
Yeah, and from our experience together, I can confidently state you're one of the most hardworking and successful attorneys I've ever come across. To become that, did you draw any lessons both from your playing days of basketball and your coaching days of soccer?
Yeah, there's no doubt, right? I mean, I don't think I am who I am, and I appreciate your kind words. I don't think I do anything special, right? Like I think I'm just carrying on some of the life lessons that I was taught during sports and that I really embraced. You know this, right? Because you were a college athlete as well. If you're the guy on the team that shows up when practice starts, like right when practice starts, and then leaves the second that the whistle blows for the end of practice, you're not getting very far, right? So I learned that very early on in my athletic career because, frankly, I wasn't very good. Like some people have natural athletic ability. They step onto a soccer pitch or basketball court or wherever, and they're just good at being an athlete. That was not me. So it took everything that I had and a lot of extra time to actually find success in sports. And there's no doubt that I translated that to my educational path and my career as well, right? Like you've got to work hard and put the time in if you truly want to be successful at what you do.
Awesome. Awesome. And you've gone on this journey within soccer, and I know that you've taken some trips, and I know that it's a noticeable part of your family life. What is the coolest soccer match you ever experienced in person?
That I've ever personally experienced,
Yeah.
totally unrelated to my kids, unfortunately.
Okay.
I had the opportunity. I went to Frankfurt back in, I want to say it was like 2019, 2020, and saw a Bundesliga game. I want to say it was Bayern Munich versus Frankfurt, and seeing that game in that environment was eye-opening. Because whatever we as Americans think, is a passionate sports fan base, I don't think it. I just think it pales in comparison to what Europeans feel about their soccer.
Yeah, and I would just love to hear more about that. You were over there. Tell me about the day. What was that all like?
Oh, it was really cool. I don't remember actually a whole lot of like the morning part of it, right? It was a later game. I want to say it was like a 5 o'clock kick. But what I distinctly remember is we were going from our hotel in downtown Frankfurt to the stadium, which was realistically probably like 2 miles away, right? And in a car, normally that trip takes maybe 5 to 7 minutes. I think it took us every bit of an hour to get there because the street was just completely packed with people and vehicles, more people than vehicles walking to the stadium. And, if you've ever been to like a DCFC game, right, for people that are local here in Michigan, they've got a pretty rowdy, fan side of that stadium. And it was like that times 100, right? I don't know what the number, but DCFC's rowdy fan area maybe has 50 or 100 fans in it, right? You're talking about like 5,000 fans that were in the same demeanor, and it was just incredible. It was awesome. It was so cool.
That is so cool. That is so cool. All right. As far as, your experience in the United States with soccer and then having had that opportunity to be in Frankfurt and experience that really vibrant community-based vibe, where would you like to see soccer in this country go next?
So it's a good question, right? As somebody that hasn't played soccer, right, in a meaningful way, I have come to love the sport, right, through being around it and watching it. And I can tell you, when I was growing up as a basketball player, I kind of laughed at soccer players, right? They were second tier in terms of sport athletes in this country uh, in the 90s. I mean, they just were. But as I've gotten older, I've learned part of the reason that you tend to disparage what other people can do is because you don't truly understand or respect what it is. And I liken that to golf, for example. Like, for a lot of people, watching golf on TV is boring. But if you've ever gone out and played it, you realize just how talented those guys are. And I would say the same thing about watching soccer. Like, you don't realize how difficult it is for them to do what they're doing at the pace that they're doing it at until you've actually been around the sport a little bit. And once you make that realization, my respect, at least for the athletes that play it, has grown exponentially. It's incredible. So long-winded way of, saying, I think that there's a tremendous opportunity in this country for soccer to continue to grow. It's done a lot in the last 20 years. There's no reason it can't do more in the next 20 years. But I still think that we're not, at the youth level at least, attracting a lot of eyeballs and feet to the game because it's still growing a little bit. And I think that because America is what it is and it has its deep-rooted history in a lot of other sports, it's fighting an uphill battle to attract the attention of youth. And that soccer is a sport that if you don't start young, it's very difficult to play catch up if you're trying to learn the sport at 14, 15 years old.
Yeah, and just looking at your life trajectory, I commend you, and it's one that I really wish more people would follow. And I'd love to shine a spotlight on it. You are successful outside of soccer. You don't do it for a living. You don't do it in the pay to play model. It is something that you put a lot of time and a lot of energy into. What might be some opportunities that you see where there could be an additive element to US soccer for more folks to get involved in the capacity that you have?
It's a tough question, Alex. You know, I do what I do now related to soccer because I love my kids, right? And when my kids decided that they were going to keep playing soccer, and I looked around at our local club, which is not, it's a nonprofit. It is not a big club. It is not there to make money. It is legitimately just there to give kids the opportunity to get engaged with the sport. When I looked around and saw what that was offering to kids, and looked at some other clubs that existed, I learned pretty quickly that the volunteer dad probably is not helping kids develop the way that they should. So I decided right around when my middle one was in U8, that if I was going to continue to coach, I was going to take it seriously, and I was going to kind of do what I've done in my career, which is learn, right? And educate myself and train and figure out how to be the best amateur volunteer dad coach I could be. So I started doing grassroots coaching classes. I finished my D license last year, scheduled to start my C in May. And I don't know how common that is, though, for grassroots coaches that are not part of bigger clubs. And I think in some ways that big club dynamic to small club dynamic is where the gap exists for a lot of coaches, right? Because in my opinion, the bigger clubs, right, they have good coaches, some great coaches, but those good and great coaches at your bigger soccer clubs are oftentimes handling 4, 5, 6, 7 different teams a season. I have one. My attention level to my kids is significantly higher, I think, than they're capable of providing. And it's not because they don't want to or they can't, but when you're trying to spread yourself across 7 or 8 teams, their players, I think, are getting a little bit of a different coaching than some more individualized attention. Maybe that's my long-winded way of saying the individualized attention is important, especially, I think, for soccer and for younger players.
It's not long-winded, and it's very relevant and very interesting. And I drew a lot of value from it. And I'm not asking you to sign a legal contract here, Aaron, but I am asking you. You and I had some conversations that even after your kids grow up, you had maybe considered continuing to coach maybe a team. Why? What's now fueling you?
The coaching aspect of it. I mean, again, like going back to the initial part of our conversation, I grew up in sports, and I've realized not playing that's a piece of my life that was missing. And I've always wanted to kind of give back and help. And for me, being involved in sports and teams is the way to do it.
Awesome. And if you could share a few things with a young player, what would they be?
It frankly would have, I think, next to nothing to do with the sport itself, but the way that you approach your work ethic and your attitude towards whatever it is that you're doing. Again, I mean, I think that one of the biggest things that sports creates value for people in is not, learning how to kick a ball or learning how to shoot a basket or swing a baseball bat. It's all the other stuff that goes along with it, right? It's the teamwork. It's understanding work ethic. It's understanding how to overcome adversity. It's understanding losing, right? And how do you learn from losing, right? So it's all those little incidental things to sports that I think I try to focus on with my kids as much or more as the actual technical training or game training, right? Like learning how to thrive in that environment is something that will feed you in anything that you do as an adult. And the earlier that you can get to kids with that information, I think the better off they're going to be.
All right. Well, that was the money shot, man. That's exactly what this thing's about.